All right, welcome to the next day's video. Today's video, we're going to look at the whole idea of, again, the scientific method. And after having done the Tootsie Pop Lab and talked about the idea of the general idea of the scientific method, sometimes we look at this and go, well, man, that's what they do in school, but that's not the real world, all right? But the reality is, it is. That is the real world. And one thing that's going on right now in our world is the trying to find a vaccine. And again, if you're following the news at all and watching what's going on, there's the want for the vaccine right now. We want it to be here immediately. But if you watch, the scientists are saying, well, we have to go through all these different steps to verify that this vaccine is correct. And that's actually the whole idea of involving the scientific method. They've got to have the two different groups that we talked about in the notes on scientific method. They got to have one group that's going to get the vaccine, and they got to have another group that's going to get a shot, but there's no vaccine. Instead, what it really is it's just a shot of water. And why do they do that? Well, because it makes it so that everybody that's in the group thinks that they get the shot for the vaccine. So they're all going to operate normally. That's the whole idea of trying to maintain a control. And the only thing that's different between the two groups then is the vaccine or getting a fake shot that is not the vaccine. Now, again, this is only during these trials that they're giving right now. Right? So they've got these two different groups that are going on. Once they get all done with that, they'll collect all that data, and then they'll be able to say as to whether or not the people that got the vaccine, did they actually not end up getting the disease because of the vaccine, or did it not really make any difference? So they have to have those two groups to be able to compare. So I also wanted to show you that the same kind of stuff happens all the time in real science, and we do utilize the scientific method. And what it is that my father was a professor at University of Michigan, and he was part of a study. And in that study, what they did is they looked at the idea of a new kind of chewing gum. And this chewing gum was developed by a company that you guys are probably all familiar with, and it was the company that came up with Jolly Rancher candy. Okay, this company was actually called Leaf Corporation. And in Leaf Corporation, this was from over in Finland, which is by Great Britain. So this is across the ocean. But they had hired my dad through the University of Michigan to help them with a study. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to find out if this chewing gum would make it so that kids developed less cavities by chewing the chewing gum. Okay. Now, the interesting piece to this and what they ended up doing was they did this study in Belize, Central America, which is down below Mexico, between North America and South America. And my dad, along with my mom, because my mom was a hygienist, the person that works on your teeth, that does the teeth cleanings, if you've ever gone to the dentist and had that done, she went and was his assistant, along with some other doctors and scientists that went. There was about 6 or 8 of them that went down there. And each year they looked at around 1,500 kids' mouths and looked to see how many cavities they had. And then in between each year, the kids were allowed to chew chewing gum. And they were given specific types of chewing gum and then based on the chewing gum that they had, ultimately they collected the data to see what would happen. Now, the interesting piece that happened at the end that was actually a surprise to the main scientists in Finland, part of this Leaf Corporation, was, again, they anticipated that they were going to find that kids would get less cavities. So instead of maybe getting 4 cavities a year, they'd get 2 cavities a year. So that would be great, instead of going to the dentist and say, oh, you got 4 cavities, we got to fill. No, now you only got 2 cavities. Well, that's great that we're only going to fill 2 instead of 4 this year. What they ended up finding was that this chewing gum was actually filling in cavities and getting rid of old cavities. So you go to the dentist office and you get no cavities, but also the old cavities that you had last year were disappearing. They were actually filling in that, putting new white stuff on your teeth, which was actually really, really amazing. So it was like, oh my gosh, this is like a breakthrough in science. Now you might say to yourself right now and go, man, I want to get some of this chewing gum. But you know what? You can't get it. And you're like, what? Why? Well, the issue is that Leaf Corporation was asked by Hershey Corporation, and Hershey Corporation wanted to buy healthy candy. Well, what was healthy candy? I don't know, even healthy candy, but they wanted Jolly Rancher. So they bought for a whole bunch of money. They bought the Jolly Rancher formula from Leaf Corporation. And in getting that, they got Leaf Corporation's entire file of everything that they had. My dad, along with some other scientists, went to Hershey Corporation in Pennsylvania years ago and presented it to the CEO of Hershey and said, "Hey, you're sitting on a gold mine here. You've got a chewing gum formula that would be awesome in order to sell in the United States, because you'll actually put all of the other chewing gum companies out of business if you sell this." And Hershey Corporation told them, "No, we don't do chewing gum." So even today, still, that formula is still sitting in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and they don't want to utilize it and sell it in the United States. Right? Now, what is the stuff that is in this chewing gum? It's called xylitol. Right? Now, if you go to Walmart or Meijer's and you go through the checkout and you look at the chewing gums that are there, you will find that there are some chewing gums that have xylitol in them. The only thing is that if they have another substance called sorbitol, then it doesn't work as well as a chewing gum that has all xylitol. And you won't find any chewing gums in America that sell all xylitol because of copyright laws. So again, it's when you buy chewing gum, if you can buy chewing gum that does have xylitol in it, that's going to be a whole lot better for you than chewing gum that contains sugar, which is dextrose, or if it contains any kind of sorbitol in it. I know these are all fancy, big old names. Don't worry, I am not going to test you over these names. The idea is I just want you to know that there are real scientific experiments out there that involve the scientific method. Now, what I want to show you right now, and I'm not going to put this online or anything, I'm just going to show you and hold it up to you, is that my dad was part of one of the write-ups that he had to do was this one. Right? And if you notice on the name, it says xylitol chewing gums and caries rates. Well, caries is the fancy word for cavities. Right? So it's xylitol chewing gum and cavity rates. And if you notice down here, it was a 40-month cohort study. So that means they went down to Belize. Ultimately, they went 5 times to do this study. And this name right over here, H.R. Pape, that's my dad, as one of the authors of this article, or this scientific article. Now, when we go through this whole thing, this side over here that says abstract, what this is a brief explanation as to what I just told you a moment ago as to what they did in this experiment, but it's just an overview of it. When you go to the other side, then this actually starts out exactly what you guys did with the Tootsie Pop lab. The only thing is, it's a little bit more, not a little, it's a whole lot more involved, because there was a lot more to this experiment. So when I look at the spot that was starred, I'm going to read this to you. In that spot it says, despite widespread exposure to diverse forms of fluoride, dental cavities remain a staggering public health and economic burden in the USA. So going back to this is, despite widespread exposure to diverse forms of fluoride. Do you guys use fluoride? Yep. You have fluoride in your toothpaste. You have fluoride in your mouthwash. You have fluoride in all sorts of things. Now, why are you taking fluoride? Because that's supposed to make it so you don't get cavities. But are you guys getting cavities? Yes, you still are. The fluoride does help. It reduces the cavities. But even though we're taking fluoride, we are still getting cavities. What is that statement? That's the problem. Problem is we're taking fluoride, but we're still getting cavities. So what can we do about that? All right. So all the rest of this thing, the rest of this just describes and says, yep, we do have a problem in America because people are taking fluoride, but they're still getting cavities. So we go on to the next page. You're going to see this is a really long paper. And the rest of this is all some more about the explanation. We get down here to this next star, and I want to read that one to you. This one says, the goal of this present study was to investigate the effect of chewing gum usage on the cavity rates in initially 10-year-old subjects living in Belize City, District of Belize. So what is this? This is actually the hypothesis. What they're saying is that they want to investigate and see, by chewing gum, is that going to change the amount of cavities these kids get.